What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I've got another discussion video for you, something kind of specific in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's splashable engines, right? You really don't think about this until we actually go back and think about this, and you think about it for a couple archetypes, and then you really get to it and you're like, oh, there really are a good amount of just splashable engines in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think Konami has determined that that's something that they like doing, making engines that can be splashed into other decks. Obviously, they try and balance it so they're not played in literally everything, but, you know, there's some give and take there. So today I'm going over my 10, top 10 like splashable engines in Yu-Gi-Oh! That I'm a big fan of. And yeah, feel free to disagree. There might be a couple I missed here. Throw those in the comments down below, but let's just get right into it, all right? We're starting off with the obvious ones. Eldlich, the Golden Lord. Eldlich as a deck is just so good. The reason is you see some of these archetypes that come out and they don't use their normal summon. And when they don't, you can splash anything that's a good normal summon in there. That's why we saw Invoke splashed in there. That's why we see dogmatica splashed in there nowadays. That's why you've seen so many different variants, the synchro stuff. It just doesn't matter. Anything with a good, strong, like one normal summon, it can play a lot of starters, is going to be played with Eldlich, and it's going to be pretty strong. So it has an insane grind game, and it just provides you that backup of whatever your normal summon plan is. If it doesn't go through, the Eldlich stuff is still there to grind you out and get you wins, a couple turns later. So pretty nasty. It's really good. It really just is. Like, it's good. It's not great. It's literally not even that strong itself, but it's just so good at like all this, at how much vacancy it leaves for you to sub in other archetypes, and that's what just makes it so good. No normal summon, right? Moving on to number 2. Oh god, did not know this picture was so big. Is Invoked. This is another one. I mean, I just mentioned Invoked as part of Eldlich, but this is just one of those archetypes where it really works so specifically in one way. You're doing the same line like every time, but those lines are pretty strong and very easy to get. You can play essentially like 7 copies of Alistair, and the goal is just summon Alistair, and he'll get you either to Makaba or Purgatrio, and you have an offensive form, a defensive play, and there you go. And that's it. It's just very consistent, very just a one-off. All you have to do is open one card, and it does that play. And a lot of people like that reliability. You do have to play a brick like Invocation, but if you draw them both, Invocation actually allows you to just play through a negate, so that still works, honestly, pretty well. So yeah, I'm going to throw Invoked on here. Number 2, this one's like, obviously, this one's so obvious. I mean, you've seen this years and years. Every archetype that doesn't need its normal summon, Invoked is thrown in there with it, so yeah. Number 3 is the new ones, Dogmatica. This is a great new archetype. I mean, again, it's an archetype that does not really need its normal summon because all of the main deck, the small main deck monsters say if any monsters from the extra deck is on the field, they just drop themselves for free. Now, they do, the best cards in the archetype do lock you out of the extra deck for the rest of the turn, but still, that's why you're doing your main extra deck stuff first and then going through this part as well. So just put anything in the extra deck on the field, Ecclesia drops out of the hand, Ecclesia gets you a Search for Fleur-de-Lis. That's at least a negate right there. Very easy. Or you go for Maximus if you choose to play it, and then Maximus extends you a little bit further. So yeah, it's really strong. It really is. And yeah, I don't know. Like, there's even just, again, you have a great searcher in the Dear Servant. You also have like just a trap card in Dogmatica Punishment that works by itself, even if you're not searching it off this combo, which is really nice. So it's not an entire break. If you draw it, great. You just set it and you use it to pop 2 monsters or 2 cards on your opponent's field on the next turn, and so it like still works regardless. So yeah, very cool deck. It does lock you out of the extra deck, so that's something you got to keep in mind with what you're splashing it with. But other than that, it's very, very strong. Very, very strong. Next up is Rockets. Now, this is a weird one. It's mainly just because like you have such insane extendability, and we know how far dragons can go just by putting 2 dragons on the field, and that's what like the Rockets are so particularly good at. Is if you open Tracer gets you two dragons on the field. If you open what is it called? The quick play. Oh my god, quick launch. Jesus. Quick launch, get Tracer. Tracer pop any other face-up card on your field. And then you get another rocket. Boom, there's 2 dragons. And we know 2 dragons is like a full wombo combo. It's incredibly scary. It's incredibly cool. You've seen this splashed in a couple of different things. You have splashed with like a Crusadia variant, just because Crusadias are so good at like kind of like jumping on the board in conjunction with rockets, and rockets act as just really good extenders for them. And I think we'll see it splash in other things. The only restriction with Tracer is that it locks you into darks, but that's not the end of the world by a long shot. Seriously, it's not. It's really not bad at all. So, Rocket Tracer. I'm going to just throw the whole rocket engine in here. It has a decent grind game because whenever they're destroyed, they float you into other stuff, which is pretty cool. Tracer's a quick effect, which allows for some pretty wonky interactions where you could like quick launch and then chain Tracer to pop the quick launch, so the quick launch still resolves, getting you another rocket, and then you get a 3rd rocket off Tracer. It's pretty cool. I think the archetype is actually really cool. I love the floatability. I love it. I think people haven't really truly developed exactly everything this can work in, but I think they will at some point, and hopefully it's healthy because this stuff is scary. All right, moving on, we've got numerons. Numerons are very new as well, coming in Battles of Legend Armageddon. I don't think they're that splashable, but the stuff they do, there's a myriad of decks it can work in. The problem is your field spell is going to, or actually, well, I guess your the card that, whatever it's, Numeron Calling, I think, is the card that locks you out of, you can only summon once more after you use the Numeron stuff, and you have to have no monsters on the field to activate Calling in the first place. So it definitely has some restrictions. We've seen stuff like Eldlich because it doesn't need to summon turn 1. We've seen Subterrors because they don't need to summon a monster turn 1. We've seen Generator because they don't really summon until your opponent's turn. So there are a handful of archetypes this deck works with. Anything in the future that comes out like that plays a slower style, doesn't need to put a monster on the field turn 1, may play this just as a way to go, screw you. I'm saying you don't get any effects turn 1, and I get an extra turn to like get my stuff set up, get ready, and then push for really push for my win condition. So it's pretty cool. I think it's not as strong as people hyped it up to be out the gate, but I do think it's like respectable. If it's in the format, you gotta respect it. You gotta play your ogres, your gammas, your impermanences. You gotta have them, because if not, you can just straight up lose to this stuff. So still a cool deck. It's just a little bit more I guess specific in what it works with, but just got to keep an eye on that, make sure you're combining it with the right stuff, which takes us to our next one. I just mentioned it, but Generators. There's another one. It's just one of those archetypes where, yes, you play bricks, so that's kind of annoying, but as far as the engine goes, the deck only has 1 monster that you would even consider normal summoning, and you don't even have to play that at 3 if you don't want to, because this field spell by itself does so much. So you can combine this with other things. I've seen this combined with Invoke. I've seen this combined with the Synchro stuff. I've seen this combined with like Orcus to do like World Legacy combos, like crazy combos at that, getting you to like Calamities and stuff. But it's pretty cool. This field spell does so much on its own, so that even if you did brick, sometimes this field spell, if they don't have a negate or a way to like disrupt it, is going to get you 1 to 2 disruptions just based on that, and that's really good in my opinion. I like that fallback of just having 1 powerful enough card to potentially stop your opponent by itself if they also have a weaker hand. So it's really cool. You definitely got to find, we definitely need something in the future, I think, support wise for Generators to help deal with the bricks a little bit better. Like drawing the monsters, the big generator monsters, just because they are a little annoying to draw sometimes. But I don't know, we're just splitting hairs. Every deck has a weakness. That's just this deck's weakness, I guess. But yeah, that'd be cool to see. But yeah, Generators, very splashable with a lot of normal summon stuff, because it doesn't really need its own normal summon, so we always know that's pretty strong. Next up, we have Mech Knights. This one is one we've seen for a while. We saw invoked Mech Knights running around for probably like 2 years now. Like, they just have been. They're around. They're always around. I've seen Mech Knight Trickstar. We've seen, what else? A pure Mech Knight at this point, just because it got Girsu and it has its own normal summon now. But this has just always been one. I mean, it's obviously a going second strategy, but combine it with something like Invoked, very good stuff at like baiting negates. This deck is very, very strong going second, giving you just free, easy beaters that can just walk over problematic monsters. as well as just the amount of utility the deck has gotten over the years. You have ways to pop spells and traps, pop monsters. You get so much searchability between purple and blue, adding gears to now, and this deck really can do a lot. Pretty much whatever it wants. It searches any World Legacy card. We have stuff like secrets, negating monster effects. You have a lot, right? This deck is just very, very good. It does play very specifically, so you do want to combine it with something that plays like spells and traps that you can set to open up columns. But other than that, it works pretty much with anything that uses a strong normal summon that is pretty good going second. And that's it. Like, pretty good other than that. So, Mech Knight's very, very cool. I like on here because they're one of the only hard going second engines on here that you don't see a lot of the time. But yeah, very scary. Next up is Shaddolls. Shaddolls are just so good generically at being sent. Like, any archetype that combines with them that can send them via effect, or even just to splash like Shaddol Fusion, just to like send 2 cards from deck to grave while also getting a boss monster that's also going to push your board state. You just get such insane value off a card like that. Yes, you might have to play minimal bricks like a beast, a dragon, and a whatever, or maybe just beast dragon, but still it's nice. And any archetype that already plays Foolish Burial already is good at just like dumping stuff out of the hand via card effect, really opens this archetype up to be played in a strategy like that. It's very strong, it's very resource efficient. You get to just get all your resources back like immediately, and you gotta respect Shaddolls. You just gotta. If you're not respecting Winda, you'll just lose to a Winda. So very, very cool deck. Definitely want to throw it in here because I do think it works pretty generically with a lot of stuff. Which takes us to our next one, which is Trickstars. I believe this is our second to last one. Trickstars is pretty cool. We've seen it splash in different stuff. We've seen it splash in Orcus at times, with Mech Knights, with Sky Strikers. Pretty much what it is it's kind of like Invoked, where you have like the field spell that searches the Candina, and then, you know, an easy, like a pretty strong normal summon. She at least is going to get you 2 bodies on the board. She can either search Lilybell or Korobane, which is going to get you 2 bodies. Now listen, 2 bodies isn't as generically busted as it was before with Mermaid, now that Mermaid's gone, but still, there are other things. There's Verte Anaconda. We could see Trickstar build that just turbo out Red Eyes Dragoon, and that could be a thing. Or, you know, still have the utility going second of making the Neos, whatever is Rainbow Neos, to just kind of like wipe boards and stuff. But it's still a nice like 1 card, 2 bodies on the board, and have a field spell in light stage that's like going to hit a back row every single turn, like forcing out either your opponent to activate it suboptimally or just completely lose it altogether. So very, very strong. I still think at some point we could see light stage go to 3 and maybe hit reincarnation just to hurt like Droll reincarnation stuff a little bit, but we'll have to see. I still think it's a cool archetype, and I do think it's pretty combinable with stuff. I've also seen this combined with Shaddolls as well, because they are lights, right? Which is pretty cool. So that takes us to our last one here, which is Phantom Knights. Now I know what you're saying is like, John, why do you have Rusty on my screen? Rusty is banned, whatever. There's been a lot of speculation of people saying Rusty could come back, and I think that's actually somewhat reasonable. Rusty was particularly busted in Orcus, just because of Mermaid. Like, Mermaid was so strong getting you to this card, and they don't have Harp right now, and they're not even like tier 1. Before Rusty came out, Orcus was still like arguably tier 1 prior to this. Then this came out and they just became like the best deck in the game. They're like tier 2 maybe right now. They're very fragile. I don't think this helps them like be less fragile. This is something they're going into later in their combos. They already can do crazy combos, and they'd have to play more bricks like the Phantom Knights. So, but this is a pretty cool thing. For any deck that puts like Darks on the field, he's essentially going into Rusty. As long as you play like, what, 2 Fog Blades and probably 2 Phantom Knight monsters, you're probably just going to get 2 negates out of it, which is pretty legit in my opinion. I like that a lot, and sometimes even drawing them can make it work as well, depending on the hand and depending on the deck you're combining them with. We know this combines with like Burning Abyss for PK Fire. We know this can combine with Orcus. We've seen it in the past, and really any like dark deck that wants to play a little more of a mid-range game, not go like too crazy combo, can play this card, and this card would be the end. I think it's fairly balanced because it can't be used as link material, not just the turn it's summoned, so you can't even link it off on the crackback. You can't use it as link material at all. So I think it's fairly balanced. A lot of people have been talking with the new Phantom Knight stuff coming in Phantom Rage that this card could come off the ban list. I do not disagree with them entirely, and if it does, this deck becomes a lot more splashable for any dark attribute deck, just being able to get a little more power, get 2 more monster negates onto their board just by going into this guy. And I think that's pretty legit, because 2 monster negates can stop a lot of decks, specifically combo decks. But you know, we'll see. Obviously, this one has a caveat to it. If Rusty Bardiche does not come off the ban list, this deck's not nearly as splashable. You don't really want to splash just the Phantom Knight monsters unless it's like something like PK Fire. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it's still a really cool deck. It's something really cool to speculate, potentially splashing into your deck later on. But for now, you know, it's wait and see time. So that is it, guys. Those are my 10 the 10, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh engines that I like, that I think are like very splashable, very nice, that they can just be worked into a lot of different strategies and allow for like versatility and combining and stuff. And yeah, it's just cool. As always, guys, if I missed anything, throw it down in the comments down below. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on these. And which one is your favorite? Which one is your favorite to just splash into things? Or least favorite? Do you hate Invoked? I know some people are tired of Invoked. Do you hate Eldlich's splashability? I don't, but I can understand why you might at this point. But just let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.